Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name's Gardy. I got my friend in studio. I'm going to let him introduce himself and then share who he's with. Good morning.
Yo, what's up? I'm AJ with Hippie Fertilizing, where nobody knows grass like a hippie. Been in the lawn care industry for like 11 years now. Had Hippie Fertilizing for 4 years now. So if you're in the League City, Clear Lake area, Webster, really all throughout Houston, but my main area is like League City, Galveston County.
Yeah.
You need lawn fertilizing. You want green grass. You want a healthy turf. You got to hit up the Hippie.
AJ, you make it happen, huh?
That's right, man.
You from League City, right?
Yes.
So if you're watching this on social media, share this in the Talk of League City. We want to share this information with our beautiful community and make sure that they have the opportunity to learn about organic, natural lawn care.
That's right. How to support soil biology, support a healthier environment, support our little micro ecosystems so we can have a healthier macro ecosystem, right?
Yes. And you mentioned it as support. So like us doing our job is support, but like it's like a teamwork thing. We all have to do it together and we can make a real difference.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cool thing is when we support it, we're helping billions of little microbes work together to support us, right? What do they say? What's gonna make the dream work?
Teamwork.
That's right.
Yeah.
People dream of these beautiful, lush lawns. We'll help your lawns be teeming with microbes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually a book. It's a really good book called Teeming with Microbes.
Okay.
Teaches lots of people. Like, it's an easy to read book by author Jeff Lowenfels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to see him speak a couple years, but it takes something that's a very complex subject, soil biology, and breaks it down into terms that are fairly simple to understand. We may have to bust out a dictionary every now and then, look up some more stuff, but that's just a learning process, right?
Yeah, so right now I'm Googling microbes because I'm going to be honest, I'm not really quite 100% sure, but if I Google microbe, it comes up as a microorganism, especially a bacterium causing disease or fermentation.
Yes. So that's not a real fair description. It says causing disease.
That's what it says, but...
gosh, let's just throw microbes under the bus with an unfair description. They actually prevent disease a lot of times, too. Microbes keep things in check.
Yes.
Big time.
Okay, so I'm going to click on another one because, like anything, it always has like 4 or 5 definitions, right?
Right.
And so, like, whenever it's pertaining to what about, natural organic lawn care, I'm sure it's different, but that's not fair.
So I know you have like other people that come on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned what's his name, Dr. Chapa.
Dr. Aaron Chapa.
And he supports like holistic healthcare.
Right.
Right. So I know a lot of what I do. I actually learn a lot about health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, like that first definition you read about microbes says stuff about bacteria, and then throws right in the same sentence, causing diseases. It's what I like. We talk about, what is it, probiotics?
Yeah.
Gut bacteria.
Right.
How it can be good for you. Well, imagine your lawn and your soil and your root zones, your root zone is called a rhizosphere, for those who didn't know.
I didn't know.
Okay, the little area around the root zone is a rhizosphere where most of the action happens with microbes. Requires lots of bacteria for solubilization of nutrients and enzymes and all kinds of good stuff.
Okay, so I found on this is a different website where it actually explains a little bit more, but it says they're essential, beneficial, and productive. Microbes were the first living creatures on Earth and are essential to life. They're beneficial in humans. Beneficial microbes aid digestion and help prevent invasion of harmful microbes. And then it also talks about their tiny powerhouses, crop protection, sustainable farming, wastewater treatment, and environmentally friendly cleaning solutions, all in a day's work for our microbial solutions.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Now that's the kind of definition we need to promote, man.
I just looked at, that's Google pushing like an agenda or something like that. The first one I pulled up.
It's just, it's like common things. And sometimes when we see something, right, we'll look for that same thing because it's familiar and we recognize it.
Right.
Kind of like weed and feed.
Right.
Right.
Weed and feed. So you go pick that up at the big box store, right?
Right.
It weeds and it feeds your grass at the same time.
Or you think it does.
Supposed to. That's what it says.
Right. It sounds good and it's familiar, and it's what people look for because sometimes they don't know. Just like that first definition there.
Right.
People hear bacteria and germs. You know, I need Germix. Oh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not terrible stuff, but, you know, we also need bacteria. We need fungi. Okay? Like, what's the first thing you think if I said you got fungus in your lawn?
I would think that that's bad. I would think it was not good.
Right, but actually super healthy lawns have lots of fungus in their lawns.
Okay.
Like for every one type of bad fungus, there's like 100 good ones. So, you know, it's just kind of like helping to redirect where we go with our thoughts with certain things and changing out information.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, Dr. Chop always talks about this, how fat was demonized in the 80s. So it was like, oh, this is low fat, no fat. But actually, he shares, you know, fat is good for you. It can be good in your diet, you know, healthy fat. I call it healthy fat. But like, you know, certain kinds of butters and there's, you know, avocados, and it has the good kind of fat that's actually good for you.
Right. And even like, you know, how much you absorb of something, or are you absorbing the other things you need with it?
Right.
Right? Because fat by itself, you know, is actually kind of disgusting if you just think about it. It's gross. But
Yeah.
we add salt and flavoring and like butter stuff up. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we need things to help process those fats, right? So kind of like fertilizer. Nitrogen by itself is like not going to do everything you think it is, right? It needs iron. It's going to need potassium, phosphorus. It needs B vitamins. But it needs lots of microbes to help solubilize stuff and utilize it correctly.
Okay. So in weed and feed, is that what they put in there? It's nitrogen?
So weed and feed and other chemical fertilizers, but let's just talk about a weed and feed. Let's say it's technically an herbicide.
Okay.
All right? It's an herbicide first with a fertilizer carrier. Now, the carrier of both of those things happens to be salt. All right? You go look back in history when one like nation would try and conquer others. You know what they would often do?
A Trojan horse. I know, maybe that was one time, but
that was one time.
The water supply?
No,
I don't know. What would they do?
They would do that too.
Yeah.
Good answer. No, they would salt the land.
Okay.
So that whatever area they overtook, they couldn't regrow crops.
Oh, okay.
So I was listening to this book, Growing a Revolution, by he's not a doctor, he's a geologist, David Montgomery. I
Okay.
actually had the opportunity to see him speak in person with his wife, who is a PhD doctor.
That's cool.
And they were talking about, you know, soil and microbes and geology and how it all works together. But he said this, like the Roman Empire was really huge, right? It grew vast and overtook lots of people, and they would salt the lands when they would overtake people, okay? But then they hurt themselves because as their nation grew, they couldn't grow crops as well because they damaged their own soil that they needed to support themselves. Awesome, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so today we do it in $30 bags, okay? We buy an herbicide with a fertilizer carrier, and it's carrier salt. So we salt the earth, and then we put down a plant killer and say, well, it's supposed to kill plants, but we don't expect the other plants to die.
Yeah.
It's kind of a silly notion, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, stay away from the weed and feed. I had a blog. I don't know what happened to it. I think I deleted it. You know, sometimes I think I know
It's
about
technology.
websites.
It'll pop up later today. Watch. Yeah.
I probably have it like, I don't know. It's somewhere out there. But things to consider when you're going out and buying a fertilizer, right? Number one, you should always consider this because to me, like our safety of ourselves, our children, our pets, our environment should be first.
Safety first.
Right. So can you touch this product with your bare hands? You know, how should you technically be handling it?
Mm-hmm.
And if you go look at a lot of these products, they will have warning labels that technically you should not be handling them with your bare skin, which should raise an eyebrow of concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is too, and you know, it's something I go back to all the time, and I always will, is does it support soil biology, right? Does it feed those microbes we were talking about earlier?
The good ones.
Right. Does it help feed the good ones that are going to fight the bad ones? Because often, kind of relating it to our health. Red Bull has calories. It's caffeine. Make you all perky. Did it ever give you wings?
They got sued for that. There was a lawsuit or something. It's like, yeah, it did not give me wings, and it's been saying it for years. But no, it didn't give you wings. Right?
Right. Potato chips, has calories. You hear in one little blurb about health, like, oh, you need calories to, have energy. Mm-hmm. Well, chips have calories. Why can't I just eat chips and have energy?
Right.
It should be fine, right? Well, no. Quit giving your lawn potato chips and Red Bull, okay? And overdoing it with antibiotics. It's kind of like herbicides.
Yeah.
Overdo it. People are starting to learn it's not weed and feed, it's feed the weeds.
You're feeding the weeds.
That's right.
Okay. So these are things that you should consider whenever you're picking out a fertilizer. The first one, safety.
Absolutely.
Who's going to be playing in the grass? Who's going to be out there? A lot of times people are spending more time at home, especially last year and sometimes this year too. But it's been really nice outside. You got your pets out there, your kids out there. I was playing in the grass with my kids yesterday.
Dude, it's going to be springtime like in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Barbecue time, baseball, Lots of people like to walk around barefoot. Do you ever put boots on your dogs?
Not me, no.
A lot of people don't. I have a beautiful red husky. I'm telling you what, I ain't putting nothing on his paws, okay?
No boots.
None.
Yeah.
So, a lot of things get absorbed through our skin, through our feet, through animals' paws. And so, yeah, safety is huge. And then also supporting those microbes, supporting things on a biological level. Like one of the terms that's get used a lot more now than I remember in like the last 10 years is science, right? Mm-hmm. It's based on science this, science that. I love science because it takes science to understand soil biology.
Yes.
Right? It takes science to understand how combustion engines work. It takes science to understand all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. I love science. So based on science, if you look at soil biology, it's more effective than the chemical science of chemical fertilizers. Way more effective.
It's like biology and chemistry, and those are both classes that, you were supposed to take in school, and I guess I preferred biology, that's
right.
My preference.
I loved biology and science, like, I loved finding out how stuff works.
Yeah.
And it's how sometimes how stuff doesn't work. Right?
Yeah. How it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So right now it's 10:14. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM. If you're watching on social media, thank you. Feel free to share this out. If you have any questions, I'm talking to AJ with Hippie Fertilizing in studio and learning about the natural way to support soil biology. And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. What we can do to leave the world a better place. And even if it's just like our house or like, even your apartment complex or you have a little garden, I mean, it's your area. What can we do?
Absolutely. Feed it. One of the things I like to use a lot is molasses. All right?
Right.
Okay, people have heard of ironite. A lot of people. Maybe you haven't.
Yeah, from you.
From me? Yeah. Okay, well, I heard about it a lot from my customers.
Yeah.
I never really gave it much thought. Well, check it out. Molasses has a lot of iron.
Okay,
potassium, calcium, magnesium, all these things that soil needs. They're minerals, so we need microbes and fungi to help solubilize them. But a good, cheap, easy thing to feed your lawn is simply molasses.
Okay.
Right? Which is one of the components in my proprietary Hippie Juice.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Tell us about Hippie Juice.
So Hippie Juice is a very simple concoction, very strong, of humic acid and molasses. I do add other things to it, like seaweed. Sometimes I use like fish emulsion fertilizer. But the main components are simply quality restaurant food-grade molasses and very strong humic acid. It helps chelate nutrients, open up clay soils, in a natural way, stimulate root growth, stimulate microbial activity, and really overall, it's good for like all plants.
So when you say, those are the things, I think like the biology soil side that it does, but like for someone like me just looking at the grass, what would that mean? Like what would it cure? What would it help? Who's it for?
Well, it would be for anybody who has a lawn.
Everybody. Okay.
A tree. Flower beds. I don't use it on flower beds sometimes though, because they're next to the house. This stuff is real dark, so if I get it on your brick, it's a hot mess.
Okay.
Yeah. However, though, what I've noticed consistently is when we use it in lawns, even the flower beds benefit big time because it's all connected underground. Right. So it's really for everybody who wants a healthier lawn.
Okay.
You want to help green up your grass and thicken your turf? Boom, it's for you. You want something that's better to use around your children or better for the environment or your pets? Boom, it's for you.
Okay, here's a comment I want to read. This is from Martha. She said, AJ is the nicest young man. His Hippie Juice application will mend your lawn issues. My yard was full of brown patch, and one treatment plus soil top dressing fixed the problem. So what's soil top dressing?
A lawn top dressing or topsoil top dressing is simply just adding a thin layer of quality soil blend. Now I get mine specifically, I like it best from EDS Landscape.
Okay.
I've went everywhere. Not all soils are the same. So, I'm sure there's other good stuff out there. I just haven't found it yet, and trust me, I've been looking. All right? But putting down about an 1/8 inch to 1/4 of an inch, or just depends on how bad the lawn is. Sometimes they're really rough, so they'll get about 1 inch in some areas. But it's a sandy blend with a little bit of clay, organic matter. It just has all the different soil components, right, to help build soil aggregates and give your grass something great to grow into, because technically St. Augustine grass grows best in what's called a sandy loam.
Okay.
All right, so lots of sand, clay, organic matter. You need all those components, but definitely slightly higher on the sand scale, but you still need everything else in there. So it'll help hold nutrients together. It'll help support those microbes. And it's like they act as great place for the roots to grow into.
Okay. This may seem silly, but to me it seems like, if you put the dirt on top of the grass, it just kind of weighs it down. But does the soil just kind of work its way through the blades and kind of get down?
So when I do it in 2 different fashions, right? I have a big spreader that I use, or I use old-fashioned wheelbarrow and a rake. And it gets raked in to where it's only about a 1/4 inch thick. So part of the rule is, like, if you don't see your grass showing up through that soil really good, you put it down too thick.
Okay.
Now, if you got big dead patches, that's fine, because there wasn't no grass there anyway, and you need grass to grow into there.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have decent grass or pretty healthy grass, you want all that soil to be worked into where all those grass blades are showing above that soil.
Okay. All right. So here's another question. So if you wanted to have like Hippie Juice and that a topsoil put on there, can you give me like a ballpark range? Like what's it even starting at? Because we don't specifically on the FM talk about like pricing, but like am I looking to spend like $200, $300?
Typically $400.
$400.
Okay, if it includes soil.
Okay.
Right? Because that's a lot of labor.
Yeah, it is. The rake. I'd be out there doing it myself.
You're carrying around 2,500 to like 7,500 pounds of soil. It requires a lot to get done, and to do it right. I see lawn top dressings around, and I'm like, what did these guys do?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's a process too, right? I put my organic fertilizer down first, then the soil, then spray it with Hippie Juice, and I tell you to water it and let it grow.
So even right now, like, should you be watering your grass?
We've had a lot of rain lately, so no, not really.
Okay.
All right. You should be more concerned with that as the temperatures rise, for sure.
Yeah, right now it's been a little bit cooler, but we were talking before we went on the FM about what happens whenever it gets 100 degrees or it feels like 120 degrees outside, because it's coming.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. Again, listening to that Growing a Revolution book, and he mentions soil activity, microbial activity stops when the soil gets about 100 degrees. So everything that's working for you shuts down. So it's super important to let your grass be high. Like, literally, though, St. Augustine grass grows best at 4 inches and above. You cut it shorter than that, you're kind of taking away its protection. You're
You say 4 inches?
Yes, 4 inches. Almost a half a foot.
Doesn't that seem a little high? Because I know like if you drive down the neighborhood, nobody has their grass high. And if they do, they get a letter from if they live in a neighborhood, from the homeowners being like, you need to mow your grass.
Well, yeah, a lot of people cut it at like 2 inches.
Right.
And it's not Bermuda, okay? It's not. And even in Texas, in our lovely 115 real field weather in summer,
Yeah.
Bermuda needs to be higher. You want to burn your lawn in the middle of summer?
No.
You want a high irrigation bill, real high? Cut it at 2 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. You want a healthier turf? Your feet should literally start to disappear when you walk in the grass.
Okay.
People tell me all the time, AJ, I hate this stuff. It hurts. It hurts my feet, right? Because it's short and it's crunchy and it's not absorbing water and nutrients. I go in, fertilize lawns, grass grows longer. They're like, oh, this stuff is softer on my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go roll around in it with your dog and go play with your kids.
That's right, man. Get some microbes on you, dude.
Ooh. But okay, so here's the other question, and I think we've talked about bugs before, and I think bugs are a natural part of that soil biology.
They are.
But there's
Absolutely.
one bug that I do not like.
What?
And it's an ant, especially in my yard.
Okay.
Because if my baby, I have a 10-month-old, and he's crawling around in there, and he loves to play outside. He like stares out the window and is like, "Let me out there."
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go out there with him. But what does it do? Because I'm thinking if I spray some molasses in my yard on this ant pile, those ants are gonna have a heyday. I feel like they're gonna eat it, right? Do we know?
Well, what it does though, within 30 minutes, especially when soil is warmer, because it does require it to be warmer for lots of microbial activity.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not freezing now, so you still do get lots of activity. You get lots of good bacteria. Within 30 minutes of putting molasses down, you double the bacteria in soil.
Okay.
Okay, so really the whole notion that you're gonna get more ants from molasses,
Mm-hmm.
I've never, ever, ever seen it happen.
Okay.
Never. In fact, a lot of people say they get less ants because of how it works with the microbes. Like, it's kind of like boosting your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of scares away the stuff you don't like.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's that boost, and it's like, hey, this isn't what we're used to here. Let's go to the next yard over. Go check out that place over there. That's what I see, like an ant pile, if it gets mowed over or whatever. It's like, oh, and then you see there's a little one over there, and it gets a little bit bigger. They just kind of move because, hey, we got disturbed. This isn't.
Well, there's some stuff out there, though, that I would recommend. It's a product by Fertilome. I'm not a fan of a lot of their products, but it's called Come and Get It.
Okay.
Ant killer. Literally.
Yeah.
It's in a pretty blue package with a big old ant called Come and Get It. And that stuff is really effective on ant piles. I've used it around my house because I got ate up by my water hose one day, and even the hippie was like, oh, no. No.
Yeah.
You ain't about to tear me up while I'm trying to turn on my own water.
Yeah. So that doesn't hurt the soil biology? That one is a safer option?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't eat it, okay? But I definitely use it around my home, trust it around my pets, stuff like that, because it's the way it works is a bacterial function.
Okay.
Right? That goes in and basically like kills the ants and other bugs. So it's a better option than most out there.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a couple things that stuck out to me. You were talking about, okay, there's this book that I'm into. I had the opportunity to listen to this person speak and this person speak, and you are excited about this topic when it comes to soil biology, lawn care, or an organic way. Why are you so excited, and how did you get into this field?
Well, I got into lawn care like 11 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And if you would ask me when I was a young kid what I wanted to do, I would have said, I want to be an environmental engineer. I honestly didn't know anything about that yet. I just liked the way it sounded, and I was like, man, I can do something good for the earth.
They sound like they make money, too.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out that's not true, though. Anyway, so doing lawn care, doing landscaping, it was okay. I got to work outside and move around. That's kind of a necessity for me. But then I ran into, over fertilizing lawns and burning up stuff with weed and feed. And I got sick with some weed killers. Okay, so I found some cheap organic fertilizer. Used it middle of summertime. Turned everything green.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. I was like, what is up with this stuff? And I'm never using no herbicide ever again in my life. Okay? And the more I went down the rabbit hole of learning about organics and how to take a different approach, and I'm just like, this is the holy grail.
Mm-hmm.
Who would not go this route? Sure, at times it seems more expensive, but resodding a whole lawn because you toasted it with chemicals is pretty expensive too.
Yeah. So I Googled herbicide because I was just like, I just need to see what it says. So herbicide, and then it has some pictures that here's some, I don't want to say the names, but kills the weeds, not the lawn. There's these brands, and I've heard of every single one of these, but the definition is a substance that is toxic to plants used to destroy unwanted vegetation. Farmers sprayed and protected wildflower meadow with herbicide. So whenever you say that, that's like the weed and feed. It's pretty much meant to kill whatever it touches, right?
Right, and it's made with synthetic plant hormones. So you can throw hormones off balance and things. For smaller plants, it's going to have a bigger impact. But let's say for trees, right? For one tree, it can make it go wild in ways that it shouldn't, which will create unhealthy growth patterns, which can long-term cause it to break or to do things that, like, it shouldn't do. But in other instances, like crepe myrtles and other trees, it'll kill it because your tree is like a giant weed in your lawn.
Yeah.
That's why they took out atrazine and a lot of products, because it was killing trees, right? But all it takes a few times for a big company to get sued and lose, and they're like, oh, we got to change our ways now. We lost money on this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's quit killing stuff and let's support things.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of a common message I'd want to put out there, and I want to be everywhere by the end of the year, is we got to get rid of this treat and defeat mentality.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with my lawn? I'm fighting it. I'm going to win the fight. I'm going to treat it. I'm going to kill it.
It's the war.
Yeah. The war on weeds.
Yeah.
Like, yo, bro, how good is that working? Like, how about this? Let's just focus on what we want. What do you want, Guardy, at your home?
I want a nice green grass that I know my kids can go play in and be okay.
You want a healthy lawn.
Right.
Let's support that. Let's not fight the weeds. Let's feed the grass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's feed the soil. Stop, lay down the sword.
Yeah.
Let's quit with the treat and defeat.
I know I've talked to people before, and I think I've even talked to you about this. Sometimes it's, if it bugs you, you can literally pick it up out of the grass or the flower bed, or like you can pick it out instead of spraying it with it, and it'll probably work better.
Yeah, and you don't get overspray. And guess what? If you don't bust out that Roundup on your lawn and try and kill weeds, you won't get overspray. Oh my God, you know how many times I've seen people just murder their entire lawn because they're like, I was just trying to kill the weeds. Now they don't have a lawn.
Yeah.
They killed the whole lawn.
Yeah.
I'd rather weeds than a mud pit that's full of chemicals.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing you mentioned now, it's like, well, we've been getting a good amount of rain. You probably don't need to water your lawn. But if you're spraying that stuff on there and it rains, the way that they build our houses, there's runoff, and then that goes into the ditches and it runs back into
The creek.
Clear Creek.
Yeah, Clear Creek, Galveston Bay, bodies of water. It actually goes into our water systems. I mean, everywhere throughout the United States, you can't find tap water that doesn't have some trace of herbicide. It's pretty sad. For us trying to kill plants at 9.9 times out of 10, you can't even name them. Everyone thinks they have clover. Most of them don't even have clover.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you do, it's a legume that fixes nitrogen to the soil and feeds your grass for free.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a really big deal. And I just want to help, in my own little way, change the world, support soil biology, truly have a healthier environment. Because if we don't understand these things properly, we can't make better changes.
Yeah. So something else that you said was you used a product, it was organic, and wondered, like, hey, why isn't everybody using this? And I guess the answer, at least that comes to my mind, is that people don't know. There's a better way, there's a better product, and it's safer. They just don't realize it.
Right. You know, because that treat and defeat mentality, that's what's marketed. You know, people, you're going to remember that thing about killing that weed before we're ever told about, hey, feed the microbes.
Yeah.
Who was told that?
Right.
That's not on a commercial I've ever seen.
Right. Or something else that we talk about, like with Dr. Chapa, is the best. You know, the prevention is the cure. You know,
Yeah.
before, you know, treating before. So whenever something comes and, you know, attacks it, like a virus or anything else, it's like, hey, you have a healthy lawn that is prepared to take that on, and then you treat it early. Like, oh, here's a little symptom. What can we do? What do we do now? You know?
Right. And oftentimes, you know, if we take a step back, the treatment can be, now with lawns, you know, I'm not a doctor, none of that, but I know with lawns, the treatment is often much more simple than we think. You know, soap and water helps with a lot of bugs.
Really?
Really. Stay away from the fungicides because they make your fungus issues worse long term.
So when you say soap and water, you literally mean like soap and water?
Like Blue Dawn water.
So where do you put it on?
You put it in a hose-in sprayer and go wash your grass.
Really?
Yeah, especially like got chinch bugs, grub worms. Even helps with sod webworms, but sod webworms, if you just feed the lawn really well, grass bounces right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Dawn commercials where they wash the duck. I don't like that you know, where they're saying it's like, hey, but it really cuts, like they're like, it cuts the grease and all this stuff, and it shows like, man, these you know, these animals that have had their habitat messed up by different things that happen, you know, and then it's like, hey, you're cleaning the duck and it's, hey, it works. You know, it cut the grease and cut the stuff off. It makes sense. It would help cleanse your grass.
Well, part of what it does, okay, is bugs have a waxy coating on around their shell, and it helps protect the way they breathe. So soap that cuts grease messes up their coating on their shell, and so it like ruins their filtration system. So basically, it can kind of encourage them to suffocate to death.
Okay, wow.
And some soaps have an antibacterial, which is kind of the same as a pesticide, but in a very mild form that I mean, we've all been using soap our whole lives. And it's definitely safer than a lot of options out there.
Well, some of us, we had a friend that walked in earlier and was like, I didn't use soap yesterday, in the form of a shower. I'm not going to throw out any names, but it was just like, you were like, you didn't have to share that info. Like, nobody would have known.
Like, it's okay, though.
Nobody would have known.
We all have our, you know, our habits or lack of.
Yeah, but it's good to have habits. It's good to create those habits when it comes to being clean.
Right.
First of all, we'll talk about him, but also, you know, treating your lawn and getting into that habit of like, what do I need to do?
You know, we want to eat cleaner. We want to have a cleaner environment. Wow, with 63,000 square miles of turf in the U.S., you want to talk about making a huge environmental impact.
Yeah.
Go sport soil biology.
Right.
Boom.
Right. It's weird to think about, you know, you see these patches of land that have been undeveloped, and they've been there literally like since the beginning, and nothing has touched it. So there's a development that's taking place across the street over here, and there's like some little grass snakes that we've seen, and you know, and part of it was like, man, I wonder if those snakes came from over there. And this isn't really related to, but it's just, I don't know, to nature and stuff like that. I'm just thinking about that stuff.
You know, how I mentioned it's a micro ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is related to that because we do have all these huge urban developments. We've taken away fields. We've taken away grassland. Houston, for the most part, is like, I forget the exact term, but it's like, was meant to be like a marshy area. Right? So it's very low-lying and wet. And we put houses there. And then we get upset when it floods. Right? And we have all these lawns, all this backyard, all this gardening. And we have this kind of weed-free treat and defeat mentality. But it's like, yo, we just took all this stuff away from nature. I'm not against having a home or my diesel truck or any of that. Okay? But what I would say is we can help support a healthier balance and understanding that, hey, we can develop our gardens, our lawns, help support our trees in a fashion that helps support the bees, the butterflies, the lizards, the birds. I mean, who doesn't want to see birds frolicking around in the lawn.
Yeah.
Birds are pretty. And we can support that by not killing off all the insects, because a lot of that, like birds and stuff, do you know it takes like 3,000 caterpillars to feed a clutch of birds?
Really?
Yes.
A clutch being like a
nest. Yeah.
3,000 caterpillars.
Yeah. Okay, hummingbirds, little baby hummingbirds, they don't eat nectar. They eat bugs that the parents bring to them, because it's tons of protein and nutrients and stuff for them to grow. But we're killing them off, and then we spend literally $6 billion a year or something crazy in bird seed.
Trying to attract the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are these birds, and they have these long beaks, and you would probably know exactly what it is. But sometimes I'll see them in my grass or the neighbor's grass, and my wife's like, they're eating bugs. That's what I assume they're doing. They're eating bugs.
They are.
But my hope is that they're not chinch bugs. That's why I was like, well, I hope they're not eating chinch bugs. Well, if they are eating chinch bugs, that's good, but I hope the chinch bugs aren't in my grass to begin with.
Right.
Hopefully it's another kind of bug. Right?
Absolutely. I hate chinch bugs. If there was one bug for lawns that I absolutely would destroy forever, it's chinch bugs.
Get rid of the chinch bug.
Yeah.
I know one time I sent you a picture of my grass, and I was like, what do I do? I was like, I think these are chinch bugs. You're like, yep. It's like, it's chinch bug. I was like, what do I do? You're like, well.
Burn it.
Yeah. At this point, there's nothing you really can do except, you'd have to replace it and stuff. But I think during the season, it was like a season where like they're about to be gone anyways, or it's about to be too cold or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
And with our weather patterns, it's hard to tell lately. It's like 90 degrees in November.
Yeah, and then it feels like, hey, this is nice, and it's almost spring. It's literally almost spring.
Yeah. So, before you hit up all those places, okay, hit up organic fertilizer. There's a better way to feed your lawn this spring. A way that's going to help support your soil biology, support your micro ecosystems. All right? And it'll be safe. So don't go out there trying to put down all them pre-emergents.
Right?
All right?
Yeah.
I'm here to say, quit fighting the freaking weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, economically, money-wise, herbicide damage is the #1 contributor to killing all your lawn than anything else. It ain't chinch bugs. Yeah, chinch bugs would be #2 for sure. But #1 is freaking herbicide damage. Just quit trying to kill all the weeds, because you're going to kill your lawn.
Right?
It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I love the work, y'all. I do. Okay? But we can do this in a better way. And let's feed the lawn this year instead of trying to kill everything else.
Okay, so how can people get a hold of you? How can people find out more information if they want to learn?
My number is 832-277-3710. My website is hippiefertilizing.com. You can also find me on Facebook. You can search on YouTube, Hippie Fertilizing. I have a YouTube channel. I got some posts on Instagram. I can be found. My information can be found. I will be putting more content on YouTube this year. I have lots of content on there already, and lots of content on Facebook. So if you want to learn some stuff, check me out on those channels. If you want to learn a little bit of what I've learned, I would be happy to tell you. I got a list of books you could go look up. And I've actually had people that look them up and read them, and they're like, wow, AJ, dude, this stuff has changed the game.
That's going to be me. Like, I'm going to one day bust out some term and be like,
how did you know
read
that?
You read the book. Like, you went into,
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. I'm excited.
I love it.
That's why I write them down. Growing Revolution.
Yeah, Growing a Revolution.
I'm gonna have to check. I'm checking it out.
So something that book is actually a lot about soil and agricultural regeneration. It's a term that he uses, and I love this. As he says, why do we want to stick to sustainability when some things are barely, sustainable? They're barely keeping along.
Right.
It's like, no, when you regenerate something, you build it better and healthier, and you build it back to like a former glory. You don't just sustain what's barely working.
Hanging on.
Yeah. I love it. So I'm like, I'm in lawn care regeneration, right? I don't have a sustainable lawn care. No, I have regenerative lawn care. This stuff is a powerhouse. And we're going to make it grow like you've never seen before.
I love it.
Because nobody knows grass like a hippie.
Mic drop. Throw that mic across the street. Hey, AJ, Thank you for hanging out this morning. I appreciate you.
Man, Guardy, I appreciate you having me, man. It's fun.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. All right, social media, again, share this out. What's your phone number one more time and website?
HippieFertilizing.com. Phone number 832-277-3710.
Hey, social media.